Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Dream Life Loading channel. I'm Skye.
I'm Susan. How are you today?
I'm good, Susan. I'm so excited for this episode because once again, I feel like it's perfectly aligned with us, and all the advice we have to share today is things that we've been doing to help us. So I just have so much good energy because of that. How are you?
I'm so good. I can't tell everyone why just yet, but there's exciting news coming in the very near future that we've been working towards for a very long time. And it's just today's the best day.
It really is. And we are recording this on 3/13, and we have been hearing rumors that Miss Taylor Swift may be announcing Speak Now Taylor's version. So maybe because this will go live on Wednesday, maybe people will already know that it happened, and that would just make this day even better. And we're like
It-
barely into the day, and it's already such a good day.
She hasn't updated yet. But if she, yes, yeah, keyword, yeah. Yeah. And I feel like this episode, we were so burnt out 3 weeks ago that if we talked about it, we wouldn't have any solutions to it. We just talk about how it feels. And I feel like we're both on the other end of it. Like we had severe burnout and then we found things that worked for us. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And now we're on the other side of it. And when I say I had the best day of my life today, I'm not joking. Like it just proof that what we're talking about works. And you might feel like super down and like, what's the point? I promise you, 3 weeks from now, your life can look completely different.
I wanted to start the episode by talking about signs of burnout because I think if you don't know like that this is a normal thing and there's very easy ways to fix it, you might be like, "Oh my God, what's wrong with me? Like why am I feeling this way?" So maybe it's just a perfect way to start because if you're feeling burned out and you don't even realize that that is what you're feeling, this might help. So I know
Yeah.
for me, like insanely tired, lethargic, like unmotivated, like and not I think it's important to this is not we're not talking about being depressed. Like that is a very different thing. This is like burnout is when you feel these things, but it's very obvious once you realize like why you're feeling this way. And it's a very easy fix. Whereas like a medically diagnosed thing is very different, although some of these symptoms might seem similar. But for me, like super unmotivated and like things that I usually enjoy doing feel like it's like such a chore.
Yeah. Showering for me is the number one thing that feels like the biggest like feat. It's just like one of those things where you have to get like uncomfortable and cold and sometimes it just does not feel worth it. I can realize like when I'm like, okay, it's a hair wash day and I push it off like 2 more days because I just don't want to. That's when I'm like, okay, like something's a little weird here because like I do like to have proper hygiene and like be clean. I have a blog that's coming out this Friday that was all about burnout. I was like, it's perfect as our topic for YouTube this week. So I actually did a little bit of research and I was surprised by what I learned because I was like, oh, like I know what burnout feels like. Like I'm good, I know. No, because there's actually 12 stages to burnout that I learned about. And I looked at these and I was like, oh my God, this is Skye and I. Like, this is exactly what we do. So I'm just going to run through the 12 and then we can discuss it. So, the 12 stages of burnout, the first one is excessive ambition. The second one is working harder. Three is neglecting your own needs. Fourth is displacement of conflicts and needs. Fifth is no longer any need for non work related needs. Six is increasing denial of the problem. Seven is withdrawal or lack of direction. Eight is behavioral changes. Nine is depersonalization, loss of contact with yourself and your own needs. 10 is inner emptiness or excessive anxiety. 11 is increasing feeling of meaningless or lack of interest. And 12 is physical exhaustion that can be life threatening. And I was like, I looked down that list and I was like, okay, I can literally see the last like 6 weeks of my life unfolding in that list. And it's just now that I'm aware of these, I know I can come back to this. And that's kind of the point of the blog. I outline these and then I outline ways that you can cope with them. But if you're aware of something, you can identify it. That's half your problem. So if you can identify, okay, I'm, 6 steps into feeling burnt out, like maybe take a day off or maybe prioritize a little extra self-care time.
Mhm. I think it's so important, and that was something that I had written down was prioritizing breaks.
and you have to, we've talked about this before, but you have to prioritize your mental health, your physical health, and you have to prioritize you, because you're not going to be able to get any of the other things you want to get done if you physically and mentally aren't already there. And I think that was like a big thing for us, is that we were lacking on that to make up. We thought that that was going to give us more time and energy to do all these other things, which was literally the opposite.
Yeah, because then you literally have nothing left. Chris was the one who felt it first. When we got over ambitious with, or excessively ambitious with Dream Life Floating, he was the first one who was like, dude, like, you're not here. Like, yeah, you're sitting in front of me, but you are not here, and this is not going to work. And he's the one that actually forced like segmenting time specifically for marriage, work, and then business.
Mm-hmm.
And think, like I said, being aware of that. And even if you have to have someone else point it out, like we set the boundary for work on weekends. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you want to work on the weekend, like you have a little extra time, like that's okay. But we're not having work discussions Saturday, Sunday, unless it's something like emergent.
Yep.
And that's the difference. And it took a while though. It took a good 3 or 4 weeks before both of us, like specifically me, I'd be like, "Oh, Skye," like texting you, and you'd be like, "It's a
Mm-hmm.
weekend." Like, you're really good at maintaining that boundary, but you need that, or else you're going to
Mm-hmm.
be burnt out.
Absolutely. Boundaries with like work, but also like boundaries with yourself too. And just knowing that like it's okay to have to not work on the weekend. Like if you want to do all these things. And I think for me, so much of it was internal, that I have to be pushing myself, and well, I should be working now. Like I shouldn't be watching TV. Like I should be doing all these things on my to-do list. It's like, no, like you can give yourself grace. Like you actually have to, like it's going to be good for you to watch the show and completely decompress. Then you can go and do that other task 10 times better than you would have if you did it with low energy and no motivation, productivity, any of it.
It's quality over quantity. And at the end of the day, you just have to ask yourself, did I do my best today? And if your best was letting yourself rest and being unapologetic about it, like
Mm-hmm.
genuinely just relaxing. Like last night, we came in from a weekend away. The kitchen looked like a bomb went off. It was a mess. And Chris found a really funny movie and he was like, let's watch this together. And I was like, you know what? Like, the kitchen table will be there in the morning. I get up at 4 a.m. There's plenty of time for me to clean the kitchen and for me to be present here with him right now. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
so glad I did. We put our phones away. We watched a movie and like actually sat there laughing. And it was relaxing. And I had more energy this morning to do the things that needed to be done. And it got me moving. Like Monday
Yep.
morning, I already crossed a gazillion things off my to-do list. Like I'm not saying every Sunday I'm going to leave my list for Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Just it's finding the balance and just kind of being flexible with yourself and with your routines.
Life is way too short to not be able to be like adaptive. And I think look at that situation, is every single night you talk about your nightly cleanup and how it's so good for you and so helpful. But last night, not doing that nightly cleanup was good for you. And being able to unapologetically sit on the couch and watch a show with your husband was the best thing you could do for yourself, and leaving that mess for tomorrow morning. And I think there's so much that you have to be adaptive with. Okay, so my best yesterday looked very different from my best today. And that's okay. Like you said, like do your best, but your best is going to look so different. And I think so much of getting over burnout or avoiding burnout is just acknowledging that it's okay. Like I think that's so much. It's I feel like it happens so much with overachievers, people pleasers. Like it's that brand of people that just can't stop because they have it in their head. And I think it comes from within more than it comes from other people. And that's so it's you have to do the internal work.
My biggest fear, like seriously reflecting, my biggest fear is to be considered lazy or having a poor work ethic, which I know I'm the opposite of that, but I overcompensate and I overcompensate in my personal and professional life. And that will be the self destruction of me. Like
Mhm.
there's no way around it. So just
Yep.
being, I didn't realize I did that until honestly recently. And being able to identify that again is helping me be able to find ways to work around it. So do you want to talk about ways that make you feel good when you're feeling burnt out?
Yes, I think that's a perfect transition. Less social media. I know that kind of goes kind of back with the other topic too, but less social media. Your three scroll rule has really changed so much for me. Just getting off social media and being more present really helps me if I'm feeling in a funk, because the doom scrolling is so easy to do if you're feeling burned out. So like no or less social media.
is really helpful for me.
I just turn into a zombie without that
Mhm.
3 scroll rule, which if you haven't heard this before, us talking about it, 3 scrolls. If you're not laughing, entertained, or inspired, you close out of the app. You can go open a different app, but like realistically, you should probably just get off your phone and like be present in life. And it keeps you from because when you're scrolling, realistically, you're searching for something. You didn't see it in what's in front of you, so you kept looking for it.
Yeah.
You can find what you're looking for right in front of you.
Hmm. Yeah.
You're you have to satisfy yourself. You have to entertain yourself.
Right.
We're stuck with you for life. Watching other people is it could inspire you, but it's not going to help you,
Hmm. I
especially
always
if you're
think if I'm feeling in that like funk, burned out, like unmotivated mindset, I'm trying to think about like different ways to move my mind, my body, my whatever. So like reading for me is so huge because it completely blocks out everything else. Like it turns off my brain, it turns off people around me, just any distractions, and it's just me in my book. So reading really helps me. And then if it's more of like that antsy feeling where you like you're tired but you're not tired, like going for a walk, first of all, getting outside and getting the serotonin from that is so helpful in itself. And then you're moving your body, you're getting a little sweat in. And like, I've never exercised and regretted it after. Never.
literally got me out of bed last week.
Mhm.
You never regret a workout ever.
Even if it's so light, like it does not have to be crazy, but just moving your body can really like it'll flip your day. It'll really flip your mindset.
Yep. I had reading obviously and then journaling. Like when I
Yes.
that's another sign for me that I know I'm getting burnt out is when journaling feels like work, and that's the reading and journaling are the first two things I ditch when I'm feeling burnt out because I'm like they're not that important. No, they are important and you need to prioritize the things you love.
Mhm.
Whether that is reading and journaling for you or two other hobbies. But journaling is huge. And just being able to not I bottle things up. I just that's what I do. So journaling is an outlet, and that's how I process through most of my emotions. And when you
Yep.
stop doing that, it just builds and builds and builds.
I had that reaction because I literally wrote down like do not bottle things up. I think that's the number one reason I get burned out is when I realize like, oh my God, I've had all these things and I haven't talked. And you don't have to, I think talking to people can be really helpful, but if you're at the beginning of understanding these emotions, journaling is the best way to go because you can get your thoughts out on paper without any judgment or fear of being judged for whatever is in your head. And then you can process those and share them with people that you trust. And I noticed last week too, usually with my journaling recently, I've been doing more of goal setting. And last week I was just like filling pages with and random and thoughts. And I go back and be like, oh my God, like all of this was in my head and I didn't even realize it. So just
Yeah.
literally opening a book with a pen, you don't even have to know what you're going to write about. And your brain will be like, we needed this. Like you need to let it out.
Yeah. Like stemming off of that is I write out my intention for the day. So like
Mm-hmm.
today, my intention was to be productive. I've been incredibly productive today. But you can set if you just even just writing it out or saying it. Same thing with like the morning kickstart that we've talked about a lot.
Yep.
Just acknowledging what you want to do today. Like don't go into a day blind. Go into the day with intent and with
Mm-hmm.
a purpose or a goal. And I think that's I lose purpose. Like I remember 2.5 weeks ago sitting and being like, what is the point of dream life loading? Which dream life loading I love with all my heart. And the fact that I was having this thought, I was like, that hurt me, like having the thought. But I was at that point where I was just burnt out with everything. Like, what is the point?
Yep.
And that's really, really hard. So if you find, even if it's a small purpose of doing your laundry, taking a shower, like you have to find the purpose in each day, or else really life is meaningless.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be this grand purpose. It can be so small. My planner right now has a little section every day that says goals. And for a while, I was putting like, okay, edit YouTube, like get this promo up, this, and this. And sometimes I still do have that. But sometimes my goal, like today, was literally like put on an outfit that makes me feel good, or put a little bit of makeup on, or read my book. Like it can be very little things that you can easily overlook. But if you write it down and be like, this is my purpose for today, if I get this done, I know that I've done what I wanted to accomplish. Like setting yourself up for success. There it is. It's
Yep.
like it can be such a little thing.
Yep. 100%. My last one was a trip or a change of scenery, especially where I work from home. Towards the end of my burnout, I looked at Chris and I was like, "We need to go away. I don't care what it costs. We're going away for a weekend." And he was like, "No, like you can take it, but like we're not gonna go away for a couple grand just so you can get a change of scenery. Like we have other places we can go if you need to get out of the house. But you need to like shake it up. It doesn't mean you have to go spend $1 million on a vacation. It means you can just take a drive, or you can go for a walk, or you can get out of the four walls that you were contained in. There's honestly nothing worse than being trapped in the same space day in and day out. And that was something I really struggled with. Honestly, even as a teacher, being in that room every single day, like I would take my kids and we would go to other classrooms because I'd be like,
Yeah.
I'm here. Like I'm gonna go crazy.
Hmm.
So just being aware of what works for you. And maybe you're someone who loves being in the same space and needs that like routine. But if
Hmm.
you have the opportunity or you need to create it on your own, like take advantage of it and just change what you're looking at.
Yeah, I had the exact same thing. I had like get out of your head mentally or physically, and I had take a drive. And this was a big one for me last week too. There's something so therapeutic about just going for a drive and listening to a great playlist. Music was a huge one for me too last week that really helped me. And so much good music came out last week, by the way, which I don't think was accidental because it really helped. But like going for a drive, that and that really helped. And Nick reminded me, he's like, Skye, like coffees are so cheap here. Like we could go take 20 minutes and go get a coffee and just get out of our space. Like you can take 20 minutes and do something like that. And even for me, like I am a person, like we love our routine. We love knowing what's going to happen, but sometimes that can really hurt you. Like you have to switch up your routine, even if it's so slightly, just to get yourself out and make yourself uncomfortable. And so that you're able to grow and stay out of that funk.
And honestly, being flexible is probably one of the most valuable skills you'll ever learn. I'm very stuck in my ways. I'm very dead set on like when we have a plan, I'm gonna stick to it. Like if we make plans with friends and then our friends are 2 hours late, I'm gonna be ripped shit by the time they show
Mhm.
up. And well, I'm much more flexible now because it's something that I work on. And that doesn't mean that you don't have boundaries or standards or expectations. You can
Mhm.
still have all those things and roll with the punches. Just make it easier on yourself. Don't let yourself get so filled with rage or anger or anxiety over it because you can't control it, but you can
Mhm.
control how you react and how you become more flexible in situations.
Absolutely. Yeah, flexibility is important. And I think we've talked about this before, but romanticizing the little things, and I think we kind of talked about this with like you can have the same routine every single day and either like spend an extra 3 minutes making your coffee at home or spend an extra 3 minutes journaling, whatever it is, or slightly switch up your routine. Just do whatever you can to romanticize your life. And I think doing a little bit of that last week helped me to be like, okay, like there is purpose, and I think like finding that purpose. And if it's romanticizing your day, like that is a great purpose.
I love that. Okay, so favorites.
You go.
Okay, so my physical favorite is my New Year's resolution was to be more present. Well, one of them was to be more present with my family. So I started a family newsletter, which looks like an actual like newspaper. And I mail it out. I physically mail it out every month. And so it makes me no doesn't force me, but it makes me have a reason to connect with my family because it's extended family too. So I actually get to like take the time to connect with them and have them send me pictures, have them explain what the pictures are so I can add it in. And then I also get to connect with them in a way when I mail it to them and they are like so excited about it. So January, I made it, I didn't tell anyone. I just said, send me pictures from January. And they were all kind of confused, but they're like, okay. So they sent it and then I just mailed it. I didn't say anything. I didn't explain it. And they all like went nuts over it. So I was like, okay, this is definitely something I can do monthly. And that's me time. Like I can be creative and catch up with my family and give them something that they can read and have.
I love it. I think it's such a sweet thing to do. And looking back on those, Susan, like I know you and I know you're going to save those, but being able to look back at like March 2023, and I don't know, I just think it's a really, really special thing. And you love to write, and I know you write for your job, but having those creative outlets where you can write, it's so special that you've been doing that.
Especially where my job, like my full-time job is writing, and then we do a lot of writing for Dream Life Loading. Like having my own writing, it's so special.
I love it. My physical favorite, I was trying to think of one for this week, and we ended up playing card games last night. And Nick was like, we were watching so much TV yesterday. We had a great lazy day. And Nick was like, "Do you want to play a card game before we cook?" I was like, "Yeah, I would love to." And it was the most wholesome little thing. And it brought me back to March, literally 3 years ago, when quarantine hit and we were all trying to do whatever we could to stay busy. And my family and I played a lot of card games, but it was just so sweet. And we found one, it's hard to explain, but it was basically, I don't know, it was like a two-person game that involved cards, but there wasn't really much going on with the cards, but it had a lot of like you learned about each other and there was a lot of communication back and forth. And it was just so sweet. Like we lived together and we've known each other for so many years. And it was just like, oh, like, okay, like, you know, you can always learn something new. And it's just nice to like get off the phones, get off the screens and just connect like that. So yeah, card games is my physical favorite.
I love that. That's so sweet.
But yeah, it's just so tender.
That is tender. Oh. So my spiritual favorite is, I don't even know. It's more of a like feeling. So it's just because you can't see the end of the path doesn't mean that it's not there, because we had something totally unexpected and wonderful happen in our life in the like that transpired in the last week that we've been working for so long but did not expect so soon. And it's just one of those things that you have to just trust the process. You have to trust that if you're working on something every single day, if you're acknowledging it, talking about it, dreaming about it, it's going to come up. It's going to find its way to you. It's going to literally land in your lap. Like, it's going to work out. I promise it's going to work out.
Yeah. Yeah. Knowing what you're talking about, it's like, yeah. It's just amazing to me that like it's so accurate. And it like if you put something out into the universe and you ask for it, there is no reason why the universe won't deliver that. Like that's really what it comes down to. Like if you just have, and I think it happens sometimes where people are too shy to say what they want or say what they're working towards. And if you put that out there and have the courage to say, like, this is my biggest dream, I want this, you will be rewarded for that. And that's exactly what happened.
You literally just have to ask.
Yep.
Worst thing, if you ask anything, the worst thing that anyone will ever say to you is no. And if they make fun of you for whatever you ask, that person, A, is not higher than you, and B, has no business passing judgment on you. Like, none whatsoever. Their opinion is nothing to you if they're going to make fun of you for asking a question. Whether it's about a raise, whether it's about a job, whether it's about just whatever you're working on. Like, there's no stupid questions.
Yep, absolutely. My spiritual favorite is not like a quote like it usually is. It's just don't compare. And that was partly what my blog talked about a little bit last week, but I feel like it's something that I like you can never fully be like, "Oh, I don't compare myself," because it's human nature to compare yourself, and I feel like it's like a lifelong lesson of like having to catch yourself in that moment and just remembering that like there is no right path, there is no person that does it better than the other. There's no one that's like you there is no reason to try and compare your life or your body or yourself or your whatever to someone else because it's someone else, it's not you. And like what you're doing and who you are is more than enough. I think that comparison can be like comparison is the thief of joy. That can be my like physical favorite because it really is.
Yeah, that was really good. Wow. What a way to wrap up.
And it actually that can totally like connect back to burnout.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think
Full circle.
a lot of times you feel like you're not doing enough compared to someone else. I don't think it's necessarily that you're not doing enough for yourself, obviously, because you're the first one who suffers when you're burnt out.
Yeah.
What a
There you
false.
So good.
Well, in typical Dream Life Loading fashion, you guys can like and subscribe, comment if you guys have any suggestions for next week's episode, and we can't wait to see you.
Thank you for watching.